advice. To some, and often those in greatest need, such costs can be prohibitive, leaving them in limbo when it comes to addressing issues or conflicts that may affect their lives or livelihoods. Based in the Northside Civic Centre, Coolock, the Northside Law Centre provides free advice and services to people living in the catchment area of Dublin North East. The range of services they cover is extensive, as Colin Daly, solicitor in charge, explains.
The Northside Community Law Centre is an independent, community-based law centre, and we work here in the north east of Dublin in the two catchments area, Dublin North Central, Dublin North East. We provide a range of legal services to people in this area who otherwise wouldn't be able to access or afford legal services.
I think it's very important that the community has access to legal services, particularly communities that are disadvantaged or marginalised, where a substantial amount of people living in that community would not be able to afford the services of a private solicitor, which are very expensive. If they can't afford to pay a private solicitor, quite often means that they are denied access to the courts, and therefore it's vital that there is a community law centre that can fill that need and provide that service to people who cannot afford to pay for the services of a private solicitor.
Here in the Northside, we serve the community by first of all providing free information and advice services on a range of legal issues. We also take on certain cases, and we will represent people from the law centre here.
In some cases, it's not just the advice they get here, there's representation done as well by Colin. Does a lot of family law, and he would represent a lot of people in family law matters. And Moya does employment law, and she would represent people in a lot of unfair dismissals and things like that. And Kevin does a lot of housing issues and things like that, and he does representations as well.
Anyone living in the area can come along to the law centre for some information or for some advice. So we have an open door policy. As long as you live within the geographical area, then you can come along and get some information and advice. When it comes to taking on cases, that's where we have to become a little bit more selective. And the case criteria the selection criteria that we have for cases, we ask certain questions. You know, is there another agency who would provide the service? Can the person afford to access private legal services? And will this case have an impact for the greater community and not just for the individual? We provide a community mediation service here at the Law Centre. It's called Northside Community Mediation. It offers a free mediation service to anyone in the area who's experiencing conflict. Typically, the kind of community conflict that we would deal with would be a neighbour dispute. So, for example, two people living next door to each other, they don't get on for a variety of reasons. And if the conflict has reached the stage where it's really impacting on their lives, they can come up to the Law Centre where the mediation service is housed. And first of all, they can meet with the coordinator, explain what the problem is. The coordinator then hands it over to one of our trained mediators and one of our trainee mediators. They'll call around to the person's house, listen to the problem. Then they'll also arrange to call around to the other party's house and have a chat to them about the problem. And then they'll bring both parties together to discuss exactly what the problem is, how it's impacting on both sides, and then they'll work with the parties themselves to come to a resolution of the problem. At the Law Centre, 3 solicitors work here. At present, we have 2 full-time solicitors and 1 part-time solicitor. In addition to the solicitors that work here, every year there are over 50 other legal professionals who volunteer with the Law Centre on an annual basis. Most of those are barristers who work directly from the law library. They work with us. They take on cases on a pro bono or for free basis. And then other barristers come along to our Thursday evening advice clinic, and they actually sit here and they will advise clients directly on what their legal rights and responsibilities are.
But on the Thursday evening clinic, when there's about 15 maybe to 20 people that call up, there's 2 barristers that come out from the courts, and each solicitor here does it in rotation each week. Usually most of those people that come would be advised to go on to free legal aid, but on certain circumstances they would take on maybe 1 or 2 and represent them.
What really distinguishes a community law centre from any other type of law centre is the fact that we also work to empower the community through community education programmes. And we also conduct research and we campaign for law reform on a variety of different things that would affect the communities living in this area.
The Northside Law Centre is based in the Northside Civic Centre, Bunratty Road, Coolock. You can call them on 01847 7804 or visit their website at www.nclc.ie.